This is podcast 306 with my guest today, esteemed golf pro, and me and him both share the same enthusiasm for sports enthusiast, Fred Corcoran. Fred, how's it going?
That's great. Great to be with you, Brian.
Thank you, Fred. So let's start with your early life. So where were you born? Give me a little bit of your background. So where were you born in your early life?
Born in Boston.
Yep.
I was a 7-week preemie,
Yep.
which was rare back then, and grew up in Wellesley. Although some people say I haven't grown up yet.
Now, tell me about your interest in sports and how that came about.
My interest in sports runs in my family. My Uncle Fred, my dad, and my Uncle Bill ran Mass Golf for 43 consecutive years. And my uncle ran the PGA Tour from 1936 to 1949. He was also the first Jerry Maguire. He represented Ted Williams, Stan Musial, Sam Snead, Ken Venturi, a number of sports luminaries.
Now, tell me a little bit about some of the players you've met in your career. We were talking about players last time we were talking.
Well, I was lucky to meet very gracious Arnold Palmer, Tony Lima, Ken Venturi, Sam Snead, Ted Williams, Stan Musial, Willie Mays. These are people that my uncle had a professional interest in. And I'm trying to think of any other people that I've met. I met John Havlicek, not Bill Russell, but Bob Cousy.
Yep.
And Tom Brady, very, very fleetingly.
Was he nice when you met him?
He's very nice. He was in his crowded room. But he shook hands. Good handshake, too.
Why do they today's athletes today aren't as, I don't know what the word I want to use is. I've heard a lot of athletes, a lot of athletes today whine a lot about playing some sports. How does that make you feel? Does that make you feel sometimes frustrated when they whine about getting fouled or getting pummeled or getting penalized?
Unless there's an injury involved, I think that complaining doesn't help the player.
Yeah.
It takes away from the game. One of the golfers last week said, "I got bad breaks." Oh, that's what golf is all about. Whether you get good breaks and bad breaks. And for someone who's been a winner, you should know better than to complain about it. You can certainly disagree with referees or umpires, but you have to let it go and keep your mind in the game.
Now, do you ever yell at referees when they make bad calls? Do you yell and say, what kind of call was that sometimes when you watch the games or no?
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's these guys are not paid enough money, in my estimation, to have themselves vilified. They're human.
Yeah.
They make mistakes.
Yep.
They've eliminated as many of them as they can with technology. And, you disagree with it, make that disagreement known, and then move on. The most important shot or play is the next one.
Now, tell me let's talk a little bit how you first met. So can you get into that a little bit for us?
I'm sorry, again?
Yeah. Can you tell everybody how you became friends, how we first met each other?
With Bob?
Yep, Bob Beach, yep.
I was living in Florida, and I came back up. My mom would be living down there for 6 months of the year, and then she got to be 95 and didn't travel anymore. So I moved back up to the Boston area, which I was very happy to do. Yeah. I'd rather have a New England winter than a Florida summer.
Yeah.
And I did something in Florida called Disabled Golfers of Florida. But Florida is such a huge state. I didn't know anyone there. I didn't know any of the people involved in the Florida Golf Association. So I moved back up here and I wanted to do something similar to it. And I mentioned it to golfing friends of mine, and one name kept coming up. If you want to help people, you want to help veterans, you want to help people with all sorts of different abilities, the only one to talk to is Bob Beach. and his reputation preceded him, and justifiably so, as I found out over the last 12 years. I've never met anyone like Bob Beach. He's a life-changing individual.
Yeah, he's definitely a great guy, and that's you met. Now, tell me about golfers like Tiger Woods. Do you think he's a nice guy? Because a lot of people don't seem to think he is. Do you think Tiger Woods is a nice guy to meet in person?
I think when he's not pressed by crowds, he is in one-on-one gracious. He just underwent surgery yesterday.
He did.
For I'm not sure exactly what the diagnosis or prognosis are, but they are. But anyway, he played through a lot of pain. I give him a lot of credit.
Yeah.
I think, and he seems to snub people when he's in the middle of a tournament.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a mistake really to call him haughty or snotty.
It's a mistake. How come it's a mistake to call him that? Because he's not like that when he's like one-on-one?
One-on-one or in a small group.
Small group.
Yeah, he can be very engaging. From what I've heard,
you ever met him?
I just very briefly. And it was a line of people, about 12 people. I think anything more than that, he thinks it's a gallery and he's back out in the golf course.
How do you feel about Pat Summerall as a broadcaster?
I thought Pat did a great job.
You did?
I really did. I miss him, and he overcame a lot.
He did?
He overcame a battle with alcohol.
Yep.
And depression, and I liked him a lot.
What about Al Michaels? You like him as an announcer?
Al Michaels is terrific. I've read his book.
Yes.
And it's great reading, and he's a real talent.
Yeah. Did you get a chance to meet Al Michaels? Did you ever meet him?
I didn't meet him, no.
No?
No, I wish I had.
Why do you think some broadcasters, though, are biased, like Chris Collinsworth? I'm naming names out. Chris Collinsworth. Like some guys are just like, they hate the home team, or they just like Chris Collinsworth, Joe Buck. I'm just giving names and dropping names.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, Chris Collinsworth and the Patriots are well known. His basically taking a look from the underdog, punch the big guy.
Yeah.
And the Patriots dynasty was rolling in full steam.
Yeah.
He had to, just to keep the broadcast alive, had to make passing comments that were anything but complimentary about the Patriots. I remember when that pass was intercepted in the end zone against the Seahawks. And he kept saying, what a terrible call. What a great play the Patriots made, but what a bad call it was for the Seahawks.
Yeah.
And so he definitely lend himself to rooting for the other team if they were playing the Patriots. And,
do you think he hates our team, or is it not that? Do you think he hates the Patriots in general, or do you think he doesn't hate them?
That's a good question. I think both.
Both? Why both? Because he's just old school.
Well, now that the Patriots aren't on top of the heap, and he has a little bit more sympathy for them.
Yeah.
So.
Now, but why someone like Joe Buck? No. Remember, Tim McCarver?
Sure.
He was staying with the Red Sox. He had the Red Sox too.
Yes.
Kind of. You know.
He's a good announcer. He brought a catcher's perspective to the game. Of course, the catcher is the quarterback on a baseball team, and I thought he was good. He had a lot of funny anecdotes, a lot of Yogi Berra stories, and he brought a fresh perspective to the game.
You know how sideline reporters are mostly women now? They do sideline reporting. Are mostly women, like girls do sideline reporters. Oh, I know in sports.
Yes.
Yeah. When did that start? In the 70s or in the 60s? When did that become a thing?
I think it started in the late 70s.
It did?
I think with the passage of Title IX, the male of the species decided to wake up and realize that there is an untapped, for them, talent pool of knowledgeable, articulate people out there called women.
Yeah.
And that they finally recognized that fact. I think Leslie Visser was one of the
First ones.
And my daughter was a Title IX
Was she?
athlete from Northeastern back in the late 80s, early 90s.
Really?
And so Title IX has always held a special place in my heart. And I think that was the impetus, really, for the media to adopt the same stance.
Now, remember when Joe Namath said, "I want to kiss you" to Susie Colbert? Do you remember when he said that back in the day?
Who could forget it?
Who could forget it? Do you think Joe Namath regretted that after that? Do you think he regretted saying that after that happened, or no?
When he sobered up, he did.
You did?
Yeah, he was in bad shape when he did that.
But
he's since conquered his alcohol problem.
I was gonna say, do you think Joe Namath would be a nice guy to meet in person? I've heard people say he's actually pretty nice guy.
I think he would be. I did meet him in person. He was actually on the down slope of his career, and he was a greeter at a fancy restaurant down in Florida. But he was very nice.
He was very nice.
Of course, he had to be in his job, but he was genuine.
Yeah. Were there any athletes that you met that you didn't like, or have you had mostly good experiences with most of the athletes that you've met?
There are always some sourpusses.
Yeah.
There are people who complain. Again, the whiners
The whiners.
are the people usually who have made some mistake on their own and are trying to cover it up or not take responsibility for their actions.
Mm-hmm.
In the heat of competition, it's easy to see why people can fly off the handle, but these are professionals. And they're paid to represent the city, the town, the franchise that they're playing for. And while they can, again, take exception to bad calls or what they think are unfair calls, again, the most important play is the next one.
What about a broadcaster? Do you know who Jim Nantz is?
Sure do.
What do you think of him?
So I think he's excellent.
He's excellent.
And it's kind of sad that he just did his last Masters.
He did? Why? Why is he quitting?
He's retiring.
Retiring.
He said he wanted to get acquainted with his family.
His family.
He must have more frequent flyer miles than any pilot. And we was doing the Final Four. He did the Masters. I think he was to the RBC Championship last weekend.
This weekend.
The only thing he doesn't do is baseball.
I'm surprised. He doesn't do baseball. Do you like Dick Vitale as a sportscaster?
Well, I think he brings
Energy.
I hate to say it, a vitality to the game.
Really?
He certainly makes it interesting. Sometimes I find it hard to understand him.
You do?
But he brings it from a coach's standpoint, and I think it's good. I mean, he is good for basketball.
Now, remember when Bobby Knight would throw chairs in games and he would
Yes.
Yes. Do you frown upon that with coaches, or do you like coaches that keep it cool? Like,
Yes.
You know.
Yeah. The coach has to have respect, not fear. Respect.
But I think Bobby did what he did. Like, you know, why do you think he did what he did when he did those things? What was the reason for that?
Well, I'm surprised that they kept him on. If you were playing at my school, number one, if I were a player, I wouldn't play for him. I'd transfer. I think he brought shame.
He did?
Quite frankly.
He did.
You don't throw cheers during games and lose it completely. You can be afraid of him, but it doesn't mean you respect him.
Do you hate coaches that yell, or do you think it's good for sometimes if they yell for good reason?
It depends on the situation, really.
Yeah.
When you get down to crunch time in a football game, you've got timeouts to be called or plays to send in. Yes, I think that in baseball, the same thing. If it becomes a chronic habit of calling either a high or a low strike zone, the manager can get on it. That's part of the strategy of a lot of baseball managers. Basketball, I do think, at least in the NBA, allows too much traveling.
Yeah.
And they don't call it anywhere near enough. I think most sports are well governed by the referees, umpires.
Do you have any Tommy Heinsohn?
I did once, very briefly. Again, it was in a group, and it was at a charity event. He was very nice, but he was surrounded by about
People.
6 or 7 people.
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
But Fred, thanks for coming on the podcast today. Fred, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show today, Fred, and you've been a great guest, and I want to thank you for coming on the show today.
Oh, you've been a great interviewer.
Thanks, Fred. And
So,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
yeah, man. I'll see you soon. I'll just come back for more golfing again with you. We'll do more golfing trips
Can't
together.
wait, Brian.
Me neither.
Can't wait.
Thanks, Fred.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You do a great job.
Thanks.
Wow.